This problem isn't much different from problem number 11, except I have to do one more step, essentially. So let's look here. What did they give us? They gave us 2 points, and they want us to write the equation of the line in standard form, slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and vertex form. So just like in the other problem, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write these down generically, just so I can see what they look like. So you really need to memorize these. And now remember, vertex form is like this, which is going to be a x minus h plus k. And we can think of it as like this. Y is equal to m x minus x1 plus y1. Okay? Traditionally, we'd use this for vertex form. But when we rewrite this, remember we just added y1 to both sides, and this is what we got. Okay, so what are we given? Look at that first. We're given 2 points, and that's it. So remember, standard form isn't very useful. I need to have a slope and a y-intercept. I'm not given either one. Here I need to have a point and a slope. I don't have a slope. Okay? So here I also need a point and a slope. I don't have that. Which means the first thing I need to do, given 2 points, I can find the slope. So that means I need to remember the formula for slope, which is y2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, let's label these. So I'm going to label this x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So that means I'm going to have negative 5, which is my y2, minus my y1, which is 3, divided by my x2, which is negative 2, minus my y1, which is a negative 10. Notice I have a minus minus. So the easiest thing to do when you see a minus minus is simply make it a plus, just like that. Just wrote right over it, made it a plus, so it's not so confusing. So now I have negative 5 minus 3, which is negative 8, and then I have negative 2 plus 10, which gives me positive 8. So negative 8 divided by 8 gives me negative 1. So that means my slope is negative 1. So that's important. I'm going to write that over here. My slope is negative 1. So now I have a slope and I have a choice of points. So just like my previous problem, I am going to start with point-slope form because I have a point and I have a slope. I'm actually going to have 2 choices. I only need to pick one, but I'm going to show you both. So here I'm going to have y minus y1. I'm going to pick this set first. So y1 is going to be 3. And that's going to equal to my slope, which is negative 1, times x minus x1. Well, x1 here was negative 10. Okay, so notice I have a negative negative. A negative negative becomes a positive. So my final answer for this choice of points is y minus 3 is equal to negative 1 times x plus 10. But remember, I could have chosen my x2's. Even though this says 1 on the bottom, that simply means same family. So my sub 2's are from the same family. So that means I could have chosen y minus y1, in this case, would be negative 5. There's my minus minus, is equal to my slope, which was negative 1, times my x2, excuse me, x minus my x2, which was minus 2. Okay, so just like the other side over here, I have a minus minus, that becomes a plus, a minus minus, that becomes a plus. So that gives me y plus 5 is equal to negative 1 times x plus 2. So if I didn't make any mistakes in my arithmetic or transferring of variable values, those are the exact same equation. And we'll see that when we rewrite it into slope-intercept form. So, like I said before, point slope and vertex form are almost exactly the same. So let's look at what we have here. We'll do both. You don't have to do both, but I'm going to do both just to show you. So my first equation was y minus 3 is equal to negative 1 times a quantity x plus 10. My other one was y plus 5 is equal to negative 1 times a quantity x plus 2. Okay, so if I want it to be in this form, notice my y is by itself, which means I move that y1 to the other side. So my y1 is right here. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So that gives me y is equal to negative 1 times the quantity x plus 10 plus 3. So that's vertex form. I can do the same thing to this one. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So that gives me y is equal to negative 1 times the quantity x plus 2 minus 5. So either one of those is correct. So I'm going to write that down here. X plus 10 plus 3, that's one choice. Or, this is all dependent on the point that you choose to put in there. X plus 2 minus 5. Okay, so either one of those answers is correct. Now the moment of truth. We want to take our vertex form and make it into slope-intercept form. So this is basically y's by itself, and everything's cleaned up on the right. Both of these y's by itself. So when I simplify either one of these equations, they should come out to be the same. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this negative 1 inside my parentheses, because I'm multiplying everything by negative 1. So that gives me y is equal to negative x minus 10. And then I have this plus 3. That doesn't get affected by that negative 1 because it's not inside the parentheses. These are like terms, so I can add them together. So that gives me y is equal to negative x minus 7. Okay? So that should be my equation in slope-intercept form. This one, as I promised, should give you the same exact equation in slope-intercept form. So just like in the other one, I'm doing GEMDAS to simplify, so I have to multiply before I can add or subtract. So this means y is equal to negative 1x minus 2. This negative 5 is not inside the parentheses, so it does not get multiplied. I just bring it down. Those are like terms, aren't they? So I get y is equal to negative 1x or negative x minus 7. Notice it came out to be the exact same equation. So that's y is equal to negative x minus 7. And that is my answer for slope-intercept form. So the last thing I have to do is I have to get it in standard form. And again, let me point out to you that my x term and y term are on the same side as the equal sign. For my slope-intercept, my x term is on the opposite side of my equal sign. I have to move my x term over to my y term. So that means I'm just simply going to add x to both sides of my equation, and I get x plus y is equal to negative 7. That is my standard form. X plus y is equal to negative 7. So the hardest part was just doing the point slope form and simplifying it. After that, it just kind of becomes a piece of cake. And so remember, for point slope form and for vertex form, It really doesn't matter which point you pick. You just pick one of them and stick with that one point. Don't mix them up.